be sitting here with Neil Peart, drummer for Rush, a man who I don't think many people get to speak to that often. The man you don't get to see often either, behind the drum kit. And
I try to hide as much as I can.
Well, you came out quite a presence tonight. The crowd response was great tonight for your drum solo, which I have heard about rumors all the time. Wait till the drum solo. Wait till the drum solo. You hear about it. And I was on the side of the stage the first time I've seen you up close, and it looks like you're running a marathon on the drums.
Yeah, it practically is actually, but compared to real marathons or other sort of high stamina sporting events I've done, when I come back to playing drums, it seems so easy.
Easy?
Yeah, compared to really hard things.
Yeah, because what I saw you doing tonight, I couldn't believe you kept going and going and going. When is he going to tire out? As the writer in the band, the man who comes up with the material, the amount of material done over the years, what inspires you? What gives you the, maybe it's natural, but what gives you the inspiration for the songs that you put out? For instance, I hear Turn the Page, which I thought was great, and lyrically I like Turn the Page a lot from the new album. What inspires you for songs like that?
Well, just in a general sense, of course, it changes. As you say, there have been a lot of years and a lot of songs, so of course the different sources have changed. Turn the Page particularly arose out of a conversation that Geddy and I had just before we started working on the writing of this album. And I went over to his house one day and we sort of sat around in the basement and caught up on what we've been doing and discussed what we'd like to accomplish with this album. And I showed him a few ideas that I've been working on. And ironically, he started talking about a couple of ideas that he'd had but hadn't got around to or couldn't be bothered to put down in paper. And one of them was the idea of how people blank out the difficult things in life by just reading it in the paper and turning the page, or they watch it on the news and then they put on a situation comedy and blank it out. And it's a difficult balance to keep truly for anyone, because you want to be compassionate and you want to be compassionate for the whole world and not just for people that you know. But if you truly were, it would be like the old Woody Allen joke where, I never have a moment's joy because there's somebody in the world that's miserable. So you can't afford to let it be that severe, but at the same time you have to let it be a little more than just ink on paper, when you look at it or when you see it on the news. It can't be just a picture that's like a fantasy, like a movie. It is a real thing, and those are real people that are suffering, so you have to at least give it a moment's thought, as almost like the moment of silence they traditionally give for the people who died in the war, I think it almost deserves that kind of reverence to people who are suffering.
It comes out in your lyrics, definitely does. Now, you say Geddy had a couple ideas that he didn't put down on paper.
Yes.
Does he wait for you? He's saying,
I think
Neil writes the songs really well. I'm not going to mess around with that.
I think it is a bit of that, yes, because he has the thoughts, certainly, and he thinks about these things, and it's perfect for me because I love to have the input, and especially because he's the singer. He and I go through a lot of interplay about the lyrics because he has to sing them, so he has to understand them and feel comfortable with the rhythm of the words and with the way they feel to be sung and so on, which is a part of it I enjoy. I enjoy that process of reworking the lyrics to make everybody happy. But I think, yes, he does think that, okay, Neil will write the lyrics, so I won't worry about that too much. And he and Alex have the music to worry about, so that's plenty of responsibility right there. And we discussed a few other ideas that eventually came to be Mission. We talked about friends of ours who were obsessed by something, and then other people that we knew who spent their whole lives wondering why they weren't obsessed, or I've heard a psychological analysis of people saying that their goal in life is to find a goal, and we were talking about those kind of people, and they ask people like us, well, when did you know that you wanted to spend your life doing this one thing? And, that's the thing that I can't answer that question because I don't know. I just always did, and it was obsessive enough that it demanded me to do something about it. And one of the distinctions I make in that song is that, dreams are content to sort of lay around and, I wish I were a musician or I wish I were an actor. But if you're obsessed by it, it demands action.
Right.
It won't let you just be complacent about it. If you're truly obsessed about being anything, and one of the people that was a great inspiration for that particular song was the artist Paul Gauguin, who was a stockbroker until he was 40 years old, and then suddenly he left his work, he left his family, he walked away from everything and became a painter, and then ended up, wandering through the Caribbean and the South Seas and died in Tahiti. It was a fascinating life, but it wasn't a happy life.
And you're not going to change careers quickly,
really,
are you?
Yeah, the downside of that I wanted to point out, too, is that everybody pays that price. We each pay a fabulous price for our Visions of Paradise, and for people like that, and for Vincent van Gogh, say, somebody like that, too, their vision of paradise cost them so much that it made their lives miserable. And that, on the other hand, people who opt for security and for whom security is the highest value and the highest principle in life, they pay an enormous price because they envy the people who were brave enough to go out and do this thing. So both of them suffer in different ways for what they thought, a paradise on earth could be.
Very well spoken. That was a great explanation, and I completely identify with everything you just said. That's exactly it.
All that stuff you
I
said,
never
I
say
agree
it,
with.
but that's exactly it. As far as, now, you have the ideas, you write the songs. How about the music? Does that get written beforehand, or do they feel something within your lyrics and then write the music?
Both ways, actually. We're not formulaic at all. Sometimes I suppose it's easier to organize words. You know, I can put them down in a framework and say, you know, I think this is kind of a verse and this should be a sort of chorus. So a lot of times it's easier for me to bring that in, and the guys can work for that and create music or find music among all of the other little pieces that we have around that have never been used that are the perfect empathetic piece of music for that. But very often they've been working on something and I'll take a cassette of it back with me to my desk and sit there and listen to it over and over again, and I will construct words to fit a particular piece of music, and I'm very comfortable with that too. I like either way of working. Like I said, I think just from an organizational point of view, sometimes the sheet of lyrics is easier to work from.
Do you consider writing the songs, like say you have a desk and everything? Is that, do you actually sit down, all right, I'm going to write a song? You know you have a basic idea, but I'm going to sit down and do it, or all of a sudden you're sitting there, maybe you're watching a hockey game or you're out in the yard and it hits you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, maybe
it could be both, of course.
Yes, it is both. And there are two parts of songwriting. One part is inspiration, and the other part, and the much bigger part, is craftsmanship. So I do, if I'm, riding on the bus or in an airplane or sitting at home or riding my bicycle or any of those things, and I think of something, the discipline that comes in writing it down, and that's when you take advantage of inspiration. But of course, under any of those circumstances, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to write a song now, nobody bother me. You cannot tune out the world that way, and nor do you want to. So as long as I have a collection of those things, I'll go into and I'll sit down at a table and I'll have pages and pages and pages of little fragments of ideas, bits of conversation that I've heard, possible titles, turns of phrase that I like, double meanings, all of that stuff. And as long as I have all that, that's all the inspiration. So I can literally sit down at a desk for a week and turn out an album's worth of lyrics just because the inspiration's already done. And then it's just the willpower, really, to go through all the trouble of rewriting it again and again and again until you get it exactly the way you want it.
Looking over the years, the many albums you've done, it seems Rush has gone through phases or stages, both musically, lyrically. Looking back on some of the early things you did, what do you think of 2112, or what do you think of the Fly By Night album, looking back lyrically and musically?
Yeah, I look at them like you would look at your school years.
Yeah.
I see them as a developmental process, and some of them are special to me because they're associated with a particular time of us working together. But in purely objective terms, as work having been done, I look at them purely as high school, college, university, and all of them were a progression of learning and of experimentation, and sometimes the experiments were successful and sometimes not, but in either case they were positive things because they always focused the direction more clearly for the next time. So I'm not very sentimental about them. Old music of mine or of ours or of anyone else's, I'm not too taken by. I always like new things to keep me stimulated. But in most cases, I look back at them just as you would look at sort of your old yearbooks and go, oh yeah, there we were, the way we were then.
That's how I looked then.
Yeah, it is. It's that.
And over this amount of time, have the three of you, I assume, have had not just problems, but I mean, have you always gotten along? You seem like you get along. It's like you and ZZ Top, the three, the two bands that are together.
That's about it. Yeah, and it is truly that way, that we have an amazing amount of both affection and respect for each other that has weathered all of these things, and we've helped each other through difficult times of being a band more than being individuals. But we're just enough the same to share values and to share tastes, but we're just enough different to share, or rather to have different inclinations in the way we like to spend our free time. So consequently, when we do take a bit of time off and get back together, we all have lots of stories to tell and impressions we picked up at different places we've been or something. So our relationship always stays fresh, but at the same time it always stays well balanced. And it is, as you point out, almost unique in music. Some people stay together just because they're afraid to go out on their own, and other people stay together just because they depend on one person in the band who keeps it all going on. But for us, it truly has been a collaboration in the true sense of the word, and it often has been a satisfying relationship in any category of relationships. There are always checks and balances, and there are always difficult periods. But for us, there have never been any really, really rocky times where it has looked like this is the end.
Well, that's great. We look forward to many more albums from the three of you then. Thank you for your time. I know you've got a busy schedule going on.
My pleasure.
And we'll let you go, and thanks for coming up, especially right after the show.
Oh, my
I know
pleasure.
you must be exhausted after the show, but thank you for coming up and talking with everyone who is listening, has been fans of you for years.
Yes.
And we wish you continued success on the tour.
Okay.
The new album we consider as another great album from Rush, and we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you very much.